Hello everyone. Thanks to everyone for watching this video. My name is Qi Dang. I am an amateur musician. Today's video is titled The Modes, and it is going to provide you the explanation of different modes within a scale. I am going to give you an overview of what I am covering in today's video. First of all, it is an introduction of scales, and then focus on how scales are constructed, using different intervals between the various notes, then wrap up with conclusions. What is the mode? A simple interpretation in one sentence is the pattern between notes in a scale. A scale is, also quite simply, 8 successive pitches within a 1-octave range. All scales start on one note and end on that same note 1 octave higher. For example, every C scale starts on C and ends on C, and F scale starts on F and ends on F, and they all have 6 more notes in between. The first note of a scale is called the tonic, or first degree of the scale. Not surprisingly, the second note is called the second degree, the third note is called the third degree, and so on, until you get to the 8th note, which is the tonic again. The most common scale is called the major scale. Major scales are happy scales. They have pleasant and expected intervals at every turn. This mirror image of the major scale is the minor scale. Minor scales are set scales. The intervals between the notes sound a little depressing. Both major and minor scales can start on any note, from A flat and G sharp. No matter which note you start with, each scale has its own specific combination of intervals between notes. Let's listen to a simple nursery rhyme in C major and C minor to compare the feelings of two scales. This is C major. This is C minor. If a scale is a combination of 8 successive notes in alphabetical order, do any 8 notes make a scale? Not necessarily. Once you get the major and minor scales, all the other 8 note combinations are not technically called scales. They are called modes. Modes are important when you are constructing melodies. When you create a melody based on a specific mode, you get to create a different sound or feel while staying within the notes of a traditional major scale. You just start and stop in different places. Chronologically, modes were around long before scales. The major and minor scales we use today came after the introduction of the various modes, and were in fact based on the Ionian and Aeolian modes respectively. Modes date all the way back to the ancient Greeks and the findings of Pythagoras and Aristotle. The number and use of modes were expanded in the era of the medieval church, where they were called church modes, and used in the form of plain song called Gregorian chant. If you are a musician, you play the Ionian mode all the time without really knowing it, because the Ionian mode starts on the tonic of the related major scale and contains the same notes as the major scale. The table details the half steps between the notes of the Ionian mode. The C Ionian mode consists of these notes. Next is Dorian. The Dorian mode can be thought of as starting on the second note of a major scale. It sounds a little like a natural minor scale, but with a raised 6. The intervals between notes in the Dorian mode are shown in this table. To get an idea what Dorian mode sounds like, listen to Simon and Garfunkel's Scarborough Fair. It's composed entirely in Dorian mode. If we change the major 6 to the minor 6, it will sound very sad. Let's listen to Aeolian like this. This is Dorian. Dorian has a very ancient and mystical feeling, but it's not very sad. Next is Phrygian. The Phrygian mode can be thought of as starting on the third note of the related major scale. Like the Dorian mode, it sounds like a natural minor scale, but with a lowered second degree. The intervals between notes in the Phrygian mode are shown in this table. When playing around the second note, it's the Spanish feeling. A lot of flamenco music is based on the Phrygian mode. Next is Lydian. The Lydian mode can be thought of as starting on the fourth note of a major scale. It's an almost major scale, but with a raised fourth. The intervals between notes in the Lydian mode are shown in this table. One of its applications is that stacking the Lydian notes with the third, we will get a major 13, sharp 11 chord. This chord has a fantasy feeling. This chord is used in the boot sound effect of Microsoft Windows 98. Another commonly used Lydian harmony is similar to this section of tune switching between the first and second chords, which have a very universal feeling, like this. Next is Mixolydian. The Mixolydian mode can be thought of as starting on the fifth note of the related major scale. Like the Lydian mode, it's sort of major sounding, but in this case with a lowered seventh. The intervals between notes in the Mixolydian mode are shown in this table. The first, third, fifth, and seventh note of Mixolydian can form a dominant seventh chord, so the Mixolydian is naturally written as a mode commonly used in dominant seventh chord. For example, if we have a C seventh chord in our left hand, we can play a melody composed of random notes of C in our right hand. It sounds very nice, like this. Next is Aeolian. The Aeolian mode contains the exact same notes as the natural minor scale. It can be thought of as starting on the sixth note of the related major scale. The intervals between notes in the Aeolian mode are shown in this table. You use the Aeolian mode a lot when you play blues and jazz tunes. The last one is Locrian. The Locrian mode can be thought of as starting on the seventh note of the related major scale. It's probably the weirdest sounding of all the modes, because all the leading notes are in all the wrong places. Back in olden times, Locrian was a mode that existed in theory only. It wasn't used in actual music. Today, however, the Locrian mode is used in some jazz music and in some new music compositions. The intervals between notes in the Locrian mode are shown in this table. From conclusions, what we learned. A scale consists of 8 notes whose letter names are in successive alphabetical order. Scales can be either major or minor. A mode, like a scale, consists of 8 notes in a row, but are not limited to just the major and minor. Most are derived from the ancient Greeks and the medieval church, and can be thought of as starting on different degrees of the related major scale. Okay, thanks to everyone for watching my video today, and I do hope you found the video informative and that you learned some things from it. If you do have any questions, then you can write comments and messages. I am happy to answer any questions. Thanks for your watching.